Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. This is an exciting day for Willmar. This is an opportunity for us to share what we have been working on with Jeff Johnson and his company Replace over the last 7-8 months. We're going to summarize all of this work. Jeff is going to summarize all of his work in about 15 minutes, so it's hard to comprehend what 8 months of work looks like in a handful of slides, but if anyone can do it, Jeff can. So let's welcome Jeff Johnson.
Yay. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming out on the nicest day of the spring where you could be doing something much more fun than this, but you came here. So thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks everybody in the team. As Kyle said, it is very hard to summarize 8 months work in about 15 minutes, and I'm a bit of a loudmouth, so you can time me and pull me off if I go too late. So as Kyle mentioned, my name is Jeff Johnson. I own a design company called Replace in Minneapolis, which I've had for 28 years. Prior to that, I was a hog farmer in North Dakota. So that's my skill set, is hog farming and design. I'm the designer who's done, if you ever see the Geek Squad logo, did that, the Traveler's Umbrella, Fruitopia, Diet Coke, I'm that guy. 25 years ago, I decided to dedicate most of my life just to civic branding and to nonprofit and better world branding. Been lucky enough to do the Minnesota State Fair logo, which is awesome. City of Delano, just did City of Northfield, Becker, and now the City of Willmar. And why is Willmar my favorite city I've ever designed? It's because Willmar is my Paris, and I'm not joking about that. So I grew up in rural North Dakota where they did not have lakes. They don't. The town I grew up in didn't have asphalt. It didn't have pavement. It for sure didn't have the Candy Mall. So when I was 9 years old, and my sister, I'm the eighth in my family, my sister got her driver's license, we would escape rural North Dakota and come to Willmar because my sister worked at the state hospital as an OT, and she raised her family here and lived here for 30 years. So in my brain, maybe not your brain, Willmar is my Paris. It's where I escaped to as a kid. So when I had the chance to work on this project, we dove in pretty hard. So what is a brand? A brand is a promise. That's all it is. It's a promise. You're making a representation to invite somebody. A logo is just a piece of artwork. And like most cities, there's a lot of different representations for the city of Willmar. Our job is to try to create a unified invitation, a unified system that works for all parts of the city. And why do we do it? Like, it's not for cosmetic reasons. Willmar is in competition, okay? It's very hard for cities to think of themselves as in competition. Cities like Marshall, when they redid their identity, Rochester, I have to point out, can you believe how awesome that is? It looks like a sci-fi movie from 1960. The reason we update these identities is because we're in competition with these cities and other cities around the country for the great businesses and the great people that we want to live here. So we're trying to design an invitation to show that Willmar is on that level and on that plane. When we start doing design work for a city, part of my job is really just to get out of the way. Like, there's a lot of work that we do at the beginning of a design process when we're trying to figure out how can we unify the brand invitation and how can we make sure that the fire department is well represented and the parks department is well represented. There's a lot of options. How can we make sure the identity system is legible in small space? But most importantly for us is how can we talk about the spirit of the community? So all of our work is in 3 phases. When we first started working in Willmar, again, we leaned in because I wanted to. You have Coffee Fest, which is awesome. So we actually explored some stuff that was more in coffee. I now know more about buffalo fish than I ever will want to know about buffalo fish. Candy Ojai, Chief Candy Ojai is where the buffalo fish run. Does anyone know that a buffalo fish lives to 100 years? Anybody know that fact besides me? Yeah, you know. They're amazing. There's a whole research facility in Arizona researching the buffalo fish because they think it might be the key to longevity. They live everywhere, and they live to over 100 years. So we did some design work that was really centered around the buffalo fish. We did a lot of design work. And why do we do a lot of design work? We go wide. We could make an invitation for Willmar where it's designed to look more like a tech company, because you've got a burgeoning tech sector, and you're going to have more people coming into the technical world. You also are a very important railroad and transfer station. So there's a lot about just the shipping industry that's important here. So we could design an invitation that's more designed for that experience. We could make it anything, but the more and more we dug into the phase 1 work, we realized that it shouldn't really look like a bank. Like, I don't think that's a good idea. It probably shouldn't look like it's from the Minnesota Tourism Board. There's more going on here. And the more we looked at the railroad sign that you see every time coming in on Highway 12, the more we looked at that typography, we realized we think this solution might already be here. It's just been kind of just ignored for being so obvious. But there was something about the integrity of that typography that we really liked. And it said a lot about Willmar. We did a lot of copyright work, and we did a lot of copy work. You know, when I designed the Minnesota State Fair, they already had the Great Minnesota Get Together. Like, you're not going to get a better tagline than that. As we looked at the demographic changes in Willmar and the fact that you're growing at a pretty amazing pace, and your dedication to shipping and railroads, the term Minnesota Crossroads became more and more important to us. For instance, the city of Moorhead, where I went to high school, they're not really Minnesota Crossroads. They're kind of way up in the north. Or Rochester isn't, but Willmar really is Minnesota Crossroads, both realistically in terms of your investment into FedEx transport, railroads, shipping, and demographically. So that tagline started to become more and more interesting to us. And then we started to lean into like the city assets. So it's great to be in this auditorium, which is a legacy WPA building. If you look at the murals that are in that other room, the same version of me 100 years ago is the guy that painted those. So my job is to make just civic pride pieces of artwork. These are illustrations that we did of the city. And we kind of assigned in the group, we wanted to have some different illustrations that just show the great spirit of the city. When my kids were little and we would come to Willmar for Christmas, the #1 place we had to go to was the switchyards. Like, we had to do that. They didn't know about the city of Willmar. They just knew this as the railroad switchyards. So for sure we were going to do some awesome illustration on the switchyards. And then we started to explore in phase 2, you know, what does the identity look like when it's a little more tourist focused? What does it look like when it's a little bit more tech focused? But ultimately, we kept coming back to Willmar as a really great crossroads city. It's a city that actually has the history of agriculture and industry that are crossing over. It has the history of my ancestors from Norway immigrating here and thriving, and now a new immigration base coming here and thriving. That's very rare, and it's something that we found really, really important. The design that we're working for the city of Willmar is designed to kind of honor that crossroads material, but also be a great invitation. So when the next Googleplex is looking for a place to exist, Willmar is in a position to invite them with a unified brand voice. Or when FedEx is looking for their new location, it can be invited with a brand voice. The identity for Willmar is the W made from railroad tracks with a heart right in the middle. Minnesota Crossroads is placed prominently. And then my job, again, it's very hard to compress a 200-page style guide into a few slides. My job is to create the style guide to show how the applications are going to roll out. So what does it look like when you're making posters for the city? What does it look like when these pieces are applied to collateral, the promotional material that will go out? And then most importantly in the style guide, how can we have a multilingual invitation? There are, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 6 languages that are currently in the style guide. We haven't done Karen yet because I didn't know what that language was until our last meeting. But as we invite more people to the city, creating a multilingual invitation is really important. And then how does it look in social media? Simple things as PowerPoints. I currently have 3 water towers in Minnesota that I designed, and I'm really looking forward to number 4. I can't wait till the water tower is designed. Please make it quick. What does the invitation look like as people come into the city? The signage that you see down the streets, simple things like park signage, and all the applications that you find for a city. The simple things that you have when you wear around the city, all the application pieces that you have around. So that's as much as I showed today. But I would tell you that my reason for doing this kind of brand design work, as opposed to any other brand design work, you are in a great space. My job is to show you that you can actually use this as a unified tool for all of the applications that are going to be coming for the city of Willmar. And thank you very much. So, do you have any questions? Since I came all the way from Minneapolis. One thing that's not in the slides that I presented, each department has their own sub-logo. So the people working in the Parks Department have their own identity. We wanted to make sure that the people who work for the police department would have a sub-logo that looks more like it's designed to serve and protect, and maybe not a tourist expression. The fire department has their own, and we made about 20 different sub-logos. Red's in the style guide, so it can be used when you want to. Good question, because certainly there's a history of red in the city. Our job, as we decided it, is that we wanted the identity to be a civic expression, and we wanted to look like a city. The red is in the style guide and can be used, but we kind of want to let the schools own red, and so like for athletics, they can own that red product. For the city branding, the style guide we put together is more of a blue and green palette because we felt that was more of a city expression. Now, is red legal to use? Yes, it is. Because I'm not an either-or guy, I'm an and guy. But it's a hard thing, because we kind of wanted to let them own that color. It's a great color. Any more questions? Kyle, do you have any questions? It means a lot that I was able to do this work, so thank you for the honor of designing your identity. Did I do it in 15 minutes? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. That concludes the presentation. You're more than welcome to stay and look at some of the samples and promotional material that we've provided today, and feel free to take what you want. And if you have questions, please come and talk to us. Thank you for being here.